firsthand what life was like in the 1950s, I do know from the realistic television families of Lucy, the Beaver, and Andy Griffith that life was awesome. Couples never got divorced. Women were really happy in their familial roles, and children had the unnerving desire to obey every authority figure in their lives. What? I thought the 50s were perfect. Now, of course, if I really had this perspective, people would seriously pity my ignorance and wonder what I was doing speaking in front of a room of people. I was analyzing this time in history with what I like to call a two-dimensional black and white perspective. And though most modern-day people are not so naive about this topic alone, we tend to wear 2D goggles while viewing so many other issues that are infiltrating our lives in every aspect. So in our seemingly internal, bipartisan, my way or the highway essence of culture, it becomes necessary to abandon not our beliefs, but this false sense that all of our beliefs must be sure and not malleable. In order to accomplish this, we must first shed color into the perspectives that we once thought of as only being black and white. After we have shed a colorful light into our perspectives, we can then turn up the volume of the voices of the people around us. And finally, once all of this is achieved, we can step outside the two-dimensional picture boxes that we may have placed ourselves inside of. Untangling the wires of this issue can be tricky because it's not about agreeing with everyone, but instead deciding based on fact with whom we do and do not agree. Initially, what we need to look at are what issues are important to us and how we are viewing them. Though I wish that all issues were simply black and white, there are many, perhaps even 50 shades of gray that overwhelm the clarity of subjects, ranging from what foods should be deemed as healthy to what television stars we should idolize and everything in between. But this should not be the case. We are living in the second decade of the third millennium, and though I agree with what political and social analysts say about this generation being lost, I think that this generation has more capability than any before it to know so much about anything. And a lot of this has to do with the growth and evolution in technology, which longtime journalist for the economic scene in the New York Times says has been nothing less than breathtaking. Yes, the growth of technology has attributed to global productivity, instant news, and even economic boom, especially in the realm of international business. Similarly, technology has attributed to great success in the educational realm. In fact, a study conducted by Minnesota's Walden University found that teachers found far greater student learning benefits when they utilized technology in the classroom more frequently than those who did not. So, with all of this splendid ingenuity and intelligence right at the fingertips with anyone with access to the internet, why is it that this generation of the U.S. is less well informed than the one previous to it, as stated by the National Commission on Adult Literacy? I tend to attribute this to the fact that technology is being used for the wrong reasons. Take social media, for example. Though it is a groundbreaking invention that has attributed to many connections and growth in the things that we know around the world, young Twitter users, including but not limited to Kanye West, Taylor Swift, Justin Bieber, and Nicki Minaj, utilize this groundbreaking social media technology for subtweeting, subliminal tweeting, which is personally attacking a person without actually mentioning their name in a tweet, instead of for sharing well-thought-out opinions free of unreliable resources, or for connecting with their fans or even family. This technology has been developed for us for a reason. We need to start using this more intentionally. And once we achieve this, and once we accomplish this intentional use of technology, then we can start forming intelligent, research-driven viewpoints. And once this is accomplished, we can start using our logical analyzing skills in order to start listening to other people. So once well-formed opinions are formed and we start putting color back into our black and white perspectives, then the volume of the voices of the people around us can be unmuted. If we start listening and understanding other people's perspectives, they may start listening and understanding our perspective. Whether you are a religious or atheist, a Republican or Democrat, a believer or directioner, a vegan or a carnivore, so many holders of one ideal are completely unwilling to see the other person's viewpoint. This leads to an avoidance of the tricky subjects at the dinner table because no one wants to listen to hurt anyone else's feelings. But this shouldn't be the case. However, this is very encouraged by our society because of the fact that everyone has the sense of necessity to always be right. Psychotherapist Mel Schwartz says that this need to always be right is ingrained in our belief system, and society not only tolerates this, but encourages it. And this is very clearly illustrated by news media. For example, very conservative Fox News is, though often a reliable resource, as is liberal resources such as CNN, these resources are very biased. The problem is not that these news resources are biased, but instead that these biased resources are being used far more frequently than resources deemed as unbiased, such as NPR. In fact, a study conducted by the Pew Research Center in 2012 found that 60% of those who identify themselves as conservative use only or primarily Fox News, and 50% of those who identify themselves as liberal use primarily or only CNN or MSNBC, whereas the use of NPR and the New York Times accounted for only 1% of either group. What this tells me is that people are only willing to listen to those with whom they already agree. But this can't be the case if we desire to form any kind of relationships. We have to be willing to listen and understand other people. People have an inherent desire to be understood that is almost as great as their desire to be right. It is ingrained in our belief system, as psychotherapist Mel Schwartz said. And as Dr. Vache Bartakian from the Harvard Business Review so eloquently put it, understanding is not the same as agreeing. We don't have to abandon our beliefs and moral system in order to understand other people. We can see eye to eye while having different opinions. But once this is grasped and we start listening to other people, that is when we can start to form relationships and start living life outside of the two dimensions. How I define living in the three dimensions is looking at and taking into consideration the past, present, and future while forming opinions. Therefore, using the facts that we have discovered and researched in order to form our opinions based on the things that we have discovered. Forming relationships based on mere opportunity and personality compatibility instead of just whether we